Hi, it's Juris and welcome to Tattoo Shop Talk, and this time we will talk about armrests. I will show what armrests I have, what armrests I have worked with. I'll mention what's good, what's bad about them. I will also mention a couple generic ones that I worked with before. There's nothing great about them, yet hero of this story is this big beast from GG Workshop, and this is their biggest size XXL armrest from the lovely company in Ukraine. And like with all reviews, I'll mention what I like about it, and at the end I'll mention a little thing that I didn't like. There's not many things about it. There's one thing which I think could be better, but I think I also figured out what's the reason why it's not there. And before we get to this one, we will quickly run through all the other ones. And if you want to just jump right away to this one, then use timestamp in a video description. And like always, if you have anything to say, to mention during this video, then feel free to leave your thoughts down in the comment section. And don't forget to like video and subscribe to the channel if this is something for you. Let's start with all the cheap stuff, with the stuff I have, with the stuff I don't use as much, and with the stuff that I use every now and then. While I talk about cheaper armrests, it would be nice if you could comment down below what's been the worst experiences with cheap armrests and what's the things to look into not to fall for one. What's been sort of things that backfire on your work? What is some things to stay away from? So feel free to mention that below in the comment section as we talk about cheaper armrests. And I will start with the cheapest one that I have, and that would be this one. I don't even know how much it costs. I got it from a gentleman who was closing his shop, and I paid something like 15 euros maximum for it. I got it because I had a chance, and it was sort of stored in a basement of my house before I opened the shop. So when I opened the shop, I already had something. I didn't expect anything much from it, but it's been 1.5 years and I still have it. And since I bought it secondhand, I have no idea how long the gentleman before used it. It's super lightweight. It have this weird system at the top where it's like kind of on some massage beds. So you can click it up, and to get it completely down, you have to go all the way up, and then it goes down back, and then it goes kind of a bit below 90 degrees, which is often comfortable. And then you can click it up step by step to all these various positions. So it can be where to put arm on, or it can be an opposite way. For all this situation, it's supposed to be kind of collapsible, but I've never taken this bottom bit apart, but it's pretty straightforward. Couple screws, couple of metal bits, and this should collapse down, and this could stay flat. So in a folded like collapsed position, it's pretty narrow. It takes very little space, so that would be a good option for like a traveling tattoo artist, or maybe something you take to conventions. And also considering that it's a cheap one, if anything happens, throw it out, replace it, get another one, or forget about it. And also what's pretty cool about it, this part extends quite high up, almost as high as this big beast. It's not a crazy tall one, but in comparison to other way more expensive armrests, this does a better job in that department. Obviously you don't expect to be very stable because this part is a little bit wobbly, and when you're tattooing you often have to put your foot kind of on it so it stays in place. It's a cheap one, you don't expect much from it, it's pretty much what it is. The next cheap one that I have would be this one. It's one of the armrests that my colleague got from other tattooists, and it was left over I think in our old shop, and it's one of the bits that I think even it might be myself who Frankensteined it from a few different armrests. There's this part from one, then this top part is from other one, and the bottom bit might be from even third one. This one is something that I don't like in any of these parts. This bottom kind of, I think it's something similar to what drums are hold on. This foot, it works, it collapses quite compact. It's not really the most stable one, and there's also no way where you can put kind of foot on to keep it in place, so you have to kind of be weird with it. The support part is more narrow than on this cheap one, because it's important, because it's armrest, so you want to rest your arm. And this is not the easiest one to rest on, and originally it was the type where you tighten it and it have this sort of like a gear type of mechanism, and it's made of plastic, so it works for around a month or two, and then every little bit starts to wear off. It becomes wobbly. First you start to adjust these little screws, you have to tighten them up, and they always somehow get loose again. And with time also all the plasticky bits, all the gears kind of rub off on each other, and it's just a mess. It's super wobbly, it's super unstable. There's been situations where you put a bit of pressure on it and it goes all like krrk. That's not something you want to experience. It doesn't look good in front of customer, and it might mess up your tattoo. And these two usually price-wise land in around 50-ish euros. So depending on the country, depending on supplier, I'm pretty sure you can find these on some eBay, Amazon, any generic supplier brands, and maybe you can order even from a big old China, and that will be even cheaper. Don't expect much from them, but they're more like long-term disposable options. Next one would be this one. This one is from a company called Tat Tech. I don't know if it's a serious brand or it's just one of the brands out there. Something with this one seemed more sturdy, and I have it for around 1.5 years. I bought it when I just opened the shop and it's been fine. There's no errors, because there's a similar type also on Amazon where they have those chains wrapping around, and they're kind of fine while they work, but they usually the thread wears down, then you have to kind of change the screw part or have some screw and have some tool around to tighten it up when you need to change height. But this one had been pretty solid, and the bottom part here is cast iron, so it's pretty heavy. As you can see, like weight wise, it levels kind of here, so when you put it down, it's very bottom heavy. It feels sturdy. Part up here is big enough and you can work with it, unless you like me and you always want more. The mechanism here to adjust all the angles, you have these two levers. I don't know why there's two, but it works fine. Classic. I have a tape here. And once it's tight, it's pretty tight. I was pretty happy with it, but one downside what popped up was when I set up bed a bit higher than usual, and this is pretty much the maximum height that it can go to, but it's way shorter than the big boy here, or even the very cheap generic one, and even that piece of garbage. And that was kind of upsetting, because if you want to have bed higher up, or if person is sitting on a bed and they're sitting up and they need somewhere where to rest their elbow, this wouldn't cut it. That was the only downside, but it's very important downside. And at that point I understood that I will need to look more into armrests, and these big ones, they've been always popping up on my Instagram feed, and I was kind of like, why I need one so big? Because all I've seen before, it was like people working with them, and usually there would be like an iPad with reference picture tied to it, and I was like, well, that's not really my thing. I don't really do that, and I don't want to tie my iPad to the same surface where I work. So I kind of wasn't still ready for this one. But then one thing happened where I noticed where one gentleman was working with it, and there was customer's arm, and also the guy was sort of leaning on it, so he had his arms on it and almost all his upper body weight was put on an armrest, and only then I understood how comfortable these things could be. So immediately I started to look into these things. So from this point on, we will talk about these armrests. Like I mentioned in the beginning, company is called GG Workshop. It's a company based on Ukraine, and since I saw that picture, I probably mentioned it out loud, and it didn't take long for algorithms to throw this armrest picture up on my social media. I clicked the links, then I got in touch with the company, wanted to make sure what's the final price, is there any extra costs involved regards like shipping or tax, sorted all that out, and they have these big ones. These are XXL size armrests. They have the dimensions as you can see them on the screen, or you can check on their webpage. And they run this offer on their site, like you can buy one this size, or you can buy one a little bit shorter, or you can buy kind of like a regular size, something this type of looking, but from this brand. And if you buy two of them, then price is a bit nicer, so you get this sort of package deal. If you buy two of these, or two of the smaller ones, or one of each, the price is still the same. Being as greedy as I am, I decided to go for the biggest ones, because why not if price is the same. They were shipped pretty quick. I think it took less than 2 weeks. As we chatted, they said like, hey, we have this thing that we're sending one bulk out now. If you order now, then we can put them on that shipping, and then you'll get sooner, or otherwise you have to wait for like extra week or two before they ship next. On their webpage, everything is mentioned, which countries they ship to, and also if the country you live in and you want to ship them to is not on a list, you can always message them. They're really quick with responding. If you have questions, reach out to them. And when I got the package, it was nothing fancy. It was a lot of cardboard and plastic wrap. So when I opened it up, I had two of those things, and each one of them also had tools with them. It's nothing crazy, but you have this pretty decent, what is called, wrench type of a thing, and a little screwdriver to attach top to kind of legs. I didn't use this one, I used power tools because I had them, but still it's nice that they also have all the tools necessary to put the thing together. They didn't have instructions, but you can figure it out. There's like 9-10 parts and then a bunch of screws and fittings. So I put them together and I'm pretty happy. This is the tallest as they go, so you can see it's this high, and the more collapsed option would be this one. It's this much difference, and if you put two of them together, you have like almost like a half of a bed. And that's maybe something I would recommend who have a bit smaller spaces like I have, that you have to keep in mind that they're pretty big, and this is more than enough. Like if it would be the shorter option, I would be pretty fine. So I think the best option to buy is buy one of this one and one shorter option. So you have options. If you really need the really wide one, you have this one, because there can be all this situation going on, but most of the time other one will be just fine. So this is where I kind of shoot myself in the foot, because I have a small shop and they take a lot of space. But still, good product, super happy with them. Everything feels pretty solid. Obviously you need to open both of the things to put it up or down, and also both to change the angle, but they have this cool mechanism where it's like a quick release on the bike wheels, where you open it up and you open one on the other side, and then you can change angles. And I have seen a bunch of people make similar size now, because I guess it's popular. But a little nice detail on this one is that there's also a little bit of padding on the bottom side, on one side of the cushion. And I think if someone's sitting like this, then this part could be pretty soft on inside of kind of armpit or ribs or whatever it's resting to. But it's nice little detail that there's a little bit of cushioning on other side of the pad, or a little bit of padding on other side of cushion. On a positive side, overall nice product, well built, easy to buy, easy to put together, reasonable price. You can buy 2 of these as some of the only one fancier, way smaller armrest. Service is good. There was no instructions, but you can easily figure out how to put it together. And now let's talk about downsides. The silly downside would be that it's too big and I have a small shop, but that's my own problem. Another thing, when you put screws in, I think if you press hard enough, you can feel them. And maybe in long term, when maybe all the soft part wears off, that might be an issue. Or maybe I just thought that I feel them. While it works and it's fine. The biggest downside is that it's kind of like top heavy, or I would say bottom light. Because it's a big cushion and it's super light feet type of a thing. So with this one, you take it and at all time you feel the weight is on that side. So once you put it down, it feels more sturdy. Obviously you have to keep it with your foot every now and then. With this one, at all times you can feel that it's kind of more heavy on the top, which makes sense at this size top, but it would have been nice if there would be more weight to the feet. Since I like to adjust all the little things, I tried to put some like stones that I use for the sandbag type of a things. I put those stones in one of the armrest feet, but it didn't change much the situation. It's tiny bit heavier, but it's still not more heavy on the bottom. But you can always put your foot on it when you work with it, put your foot there, and also this middle part is kind of in a really nice and comfortable position, because when you work, it's sometimes so nice to rest your foot that it's not on a pedal, to just put it on there, and it feels nice and comfortable, and it keeps the whole situation more kind of sturdy and kind of more glued to the ground. And at this part, you can tighten here and tighten it here, so the thing will move nowhere around once you work with it. I mentioned one of the downsides is that it's sort of top heavy and bottom light. I think it could be improved by making some insanely heavy feet like a bottom part, and I think it should be still something crazy heavy, and it doesn't eliminate the fact that it's going to be super solid, so you might still need to kind of hold it with your foot anyways. On that note, also because it would be way more heavier, I think that would affect shipping and shipping costs, and therefore costs of all products. So even though it's kind of bottom light and top heavy, it's something that you can get used to it, and at first it feels a bit like strange, but once you get used to it, you can handle it. And on the funny side, there would be another good side that is kind of a downside. Because of its huge size, it looks already like not even a bench, but more like a little bed or even a table. And we all had those situations where customers want to sit on your armrests, and this is very tempting. So you put one like that, put another one next to it, and you have somewhat bench looking thing already. Just to avoid that, keep them high up or keep them in all these folded positions, so customers don't mess them up, they don't decide to take a seat on them. I think some weights it could handle, but it's not the downside of the armrest itself, it's more like downside of the people being funny in stressful situations and they don't always think straight. So keep that in mind. If it looks like a bench, customer can try to take a seat. And I found that keeping them in this position also takes least space in the shop, so some little space saving tip here. Before we get into final stretch in this video and I show you the biggest armrest that I ever had, you can mention those good qualities that you look in an armrest, or maybe you have some favorite brands you work with. What are those things you look into armrests when you buy one, when you work with one? For me, the main qualities would be that it's big enough surface to work with, it's comfortable, and also the whole construction is sturdy, it stays on the ground, it's not moving around. And obviously it's something you can trust. It's not like some bits and bolts will fall off, get loose, and you have to mess with that all the time. Because like I mentioned when I talked about cheap ones, you buy them, it breaks down in 3 months, you buy another one, so you keep on investing in them. Well, you can buy one solid one and have it for years. And now I'll show you the biggest armrest that I ever had, and it's a silly one, but it also didn't always occur to me until I saw it. And that would be the good old tattoo bed itself. Obviously you can lay on it, you can sit on it, You can also have a person laying on it and then try to work on the side area here. Besides that, you can always cover it, put a person on other side of it and work with it there, or if you need a bit less space, it can be corner. So also, if it's an emergency, if your armrest break down, if you're in some funky place and funky situation, this can be also armrest. And there's no way you can complain that it's not big enough, that it's not stable enough, because it's always there and it works most of the time. I wanted to mention it because I didn't figure it out right away, and when I saw it, I was like, right, you can also do that, because I worked in that shop where there was this silly kind of almost palm-sized armrest, and guy was just tattooing on a bed because he said that armrest there is like nothing, so I rather do this than struggle with that little tiny thing. So maybe it will help for somebody, because you know, I didn't figure it out, maybe somebody else didn't. So if it helps somebody, you're welcome. And now leave your comments, press likes, subscribe to the channel, and see you in the future episodes. Bye bye.